The air is thick with the perfume of decay, yet men breathe it like perfume, mistaking rot for sweetness. They walk like echoes through the corridors of time, not knowing they are the ghosts of themselves. You, yes, you with your head bowed to invisible masters, with your spirit locked behind a smile, do you remember the last time you were not performing? You were born wild, not soft. You arrived howling, unafraid of the sky, drunk with the raw scream of existence. And then they began the domestication. They fed you obedience like milk. They whispered names into your ear until you forgot that you had none. Language became your leash, education your cage, culture your collar. Now you call it life, but I call it sedation. You are not awake. You are sleepwalking, with your eyes wide open. You believe you think, but your thoughts were injected by hands you never saw, long before you could spell your own name. Every virtue you claim to uphold is a second-hand garment. Every dream you chase is borrowed from another's despair. You call it ambition, but it is only imitation. You call it success, but it is only slavery with better furniture. The herd moves in silence, not because it is wise, but because it is afraid. And when one of them begins to stir, to ask, to crack through the crust of illusion, they do not celebrate him. They crucify him. They burn him and write fables about the ashes. But I tell you this, there are two kinds of death. The death of the body, which is nothing but a rearrangement of dust, and the death of the will, which is the true extinction. The second is what most suffer daily. They breathe, yes, but they do not choose. They wake up, but they do not live. They follow, but they never arrive. The soul, once tethered by lies, forgets it ever had wings. And when truth comes knocking, it mistakes it for terror. There are no prisons more unbreakable than the invisible ones. No tyrant more patient than comfort. No seduction more complete than safety. You live in a time where man is praised for being forgettable, where rebellion is sold at retail, where gods are replaced with brands, and thought is outsourced to algorithms. But do not mistake noise for depth. The world screams, but it says nothing. The noise is only to prevent you from hearing the quiet voice inside the one that remembers. Ah, yes, you do remember. Not with your mind, but with that ancient ache beneath your ribs. That silent thunder that speaks not in words but in absence. It is the memory of who you were before they told you who you had to be. You were not made for applause. You were made to stand alone beneath the stars and tremble at the vastness of it all. You were made to stare into the abyss, not to escape it, but to become it. For only in losing all masks does the face reveal itself. Only when all names are burnt can the nameless be known. But you have to be shattered first. You have to be broken against the wall of your own illusions. There is no evolution without crucifixion. There is no transformation without the furnace. If you wish to rise, you must first allow yourself to fall, not into despair, but into truth. Not into defeat, but into the silence where your real name sleeps. Most people quit, yes, but not because they are weak. No, far worse, because they are almost strong. Because they feel the fire, and they fear its consequences. Because the new self knocks, and they still cling to the old door. They quit not at the beginning, but at the cusp, when the veil thins, when the lies begin to crack, when the God within them begins to stir. They feel the resurrection tremble beneath their skin, and they confuse it for death. But let me tell you this, and let it burn into your soul like scripture written with lightning. The real terror is not failure, it is awakening. For to awaken means to kill the false king within, to dethrone the ego, to silence the choir of borrowed beliefs. It means to set fire to the narrative and walk into the smoke without a map. The path is not crowded, not because it is hidden, but because it is avoided. Truth is not hard to find, it is hard to stomach. It does not whisper sweet things. It roars like thunder in a temple of bone. You must be ready to die, not the body, but the identity. Not the breath, but the self that clings to praise, to patterns, to the illusion of permanence. Only then can the real begin. You crave truth, but only in spoonfuls, measured and sweetened, so it doesn't disrupt your sleep. You approach it like a museum behind glass, at a distance, with guards in place. But truth is no relic. It is a wild animal. It has teeth. It devours the one who seeks it, and it leaves nothing behind but silence and the taste of iron. You worship progress, but you crawl in circles. You build towers from the skulls of forgotten convictions. You chant slogans like prayers, hollow and rhythmic, believing that noise is salvation. But salvation does not come in slogans. It comes in the annihilation of all you hold sacred. What is sacred? That which cannot be sold. That which survives even when you are stripped of name, of fame, of form. But look, what have you made sacred? Comfort, opinion, identity. You wear your traumas like medals and your politics like gods. You kneel before mirrors and call it self-love, but the mirror lies. It shows you only the surface. It cannot reflect the abyss. Yes, the abyss, how you fear it, how you avoid its gaze. But I tell you, the abyss is not your enemy. It is your birthplace. It is where the false self dies and the untamed spirit is born. To gaze into it is to see yourself unadorned, unedited, unafraid, and that is unbearable for most. You want evolution without pain, rebirth without death, ascent without sacrifice. You want to arrive without ever leaving, but this is not how the gods are forged. This is not how the inner lion is summoned. The lion does not ask for approval. It does not seek consensus. It devours what does not serve its hunger. So too must you devour your comforts, your rituals of decay, your addiction to being understood. You are not here to be understood. You are here to become unrecognizable. Let the others chase belonging. Let them dance their endless dance of validation. Let them rot in the safety of their collective delusion. But you must go alone. You must walk the desert of yourself. No maps, no guides, only the howl of your own becoming to keep you company. Most people quit, not because they are cowards, but because they are still in love with their cage. They paint it. They decorate it. They call it stability. But I say unto you, any stability not built on truth is a slow suicide. You were not born to fit. You were born to fracture, to break the spell, to hear the sound of chains falling not from your wrists, but from your soul. And when that sound echoes through your being, do not mistake it for madness. That is the sound of freedom being born. You think you fear failure, but what you truly fear is greatness. The kind that does not need applause, the kind that burns quietly, unseen, beneath the skin. The kind that walks through fire not to prove a point, but because it is the fire. Look at your heroes, saints, prophets, poets, madmen. Not one of them was applauded while alive. They were reviled, rejected, hunted, because truth is a crime in the kingdom of lies, because vision is heresy among the blind. You too will be hated, not because you are wrong, but because you dared to see, because you broke the rhythm, because you spoke when silence was expected. Do not flinch. Let the scorn wash over you like rain over stone. It cannot touch what is already free. You must shed your skin, again and again. Every label, every title, every expectation, burn it. You are not your past. You are not your wounds. You are not your name. You are the flame behind it all. And flames do not apologize. There is no arrival. There is only deeper and deeper shedding. The further you go, the more alone it becomes. But in that solitude is the kingdom, not the kingdom of man, but the kingdom of the self-sovereign, the unruled, the undomesticated, the untamed. That is your home, not the world of masks and masquerades, but the raw, unfiltered essence of being, where the soul does not ask for mercy, and the heart beats like war drums, where silence is not absence, but presence undiluted. You will not find it in books. You will not find it in sermons. You will not find it in likes and shares. You will find it only in the stillness that follows destruction, in the ashes of who you thought you were. Most people quit because the moment arrives, the threshold, the point of no return, and they freeze. They feel the old world cracking, and instead of stepping through, they retreat. They choose the familiar pain over the unfamiliar freedom. But you, if you are still listening, if your blood is still on fire, if some echo inside you still howls for more, then know this: the death of your false self is not the end. It is the beginning of everything that cannot be taken. And now, the fire is yours. You seek certainty, but you were born into a world that owes you only chaos. There is no promise here, no blueprint, no instruction, no celestial warranty on your soul. And yet you cling to systems like crutches, to doctrines like drowning men cling to driftwood, believing that safety is salvation. But safety is the true abyss. It does not scream, it whispers. It does not destroy, it delays. It bleeds you slowly, until one day you realize you have died without ever having lived. The moment you begin to awaken, the world will accuse you. It will call you arrogant. It will name your clarity madness. It will mistake your fire for violence, your solitude for despair. Let it. The lion does not answer to the sheep. The mountain does not bend to the wind. You are not here to explain yourself. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to pierce the veil, to break the trance, to tear the curtain between the seen and the unseen. And that mission comes with blood. It comes with exile. It comes with nights of hollow silence, where even the stars refuse to blink. But in that silence, you will find the only voice that matters. Your own, unmuted by fear, unmuffled by the herd. And it will speak not in sentences, but in thunder. It will not ask questions, it will declare. It will not beg, it will be. There is no glory in being accepted by the blind. The world does not reward authenticity, it punishes it. It decorates mediocrity, it canonizes the tame. But you were not made to be tame. You were made to terrify. You were made to stand at the edge of the known world and scream into the void until the void remembered its own name. You will lose friends. You will lose comfort. You will lose everything that was never truly yours. Let it fall. The false must be sacrificed so the real can rise. This is not cruelty. It is necessity. No house stands forever. The storm does not apologize, and neither should you. You are not who you were 5 minutes ago. You are not who your parents wished you to be. You are not who society carved into your bones like graffiti. You are not a brand, not a tribe, not a role. You are what remains when all of that burns. Most people quit because they confuse burning for dying. But the phoenix knows better. The phoenix welcomes the fire, craves it, leaps into it willingly, because only in the fire can it remember that it is not the ashes, it is the flight after. The chains that bind you are not made of iron. They are made of stories, of expectations, of invisible contracts you never signed but were born into. You inherited them like disease, but you can break them. Not by force, but by refusal, by the divine act of saying, no more. You do not need permission to erupt. You do not need credentials to exist. You do not need applause to be real. You need only to choose to rise without needing a reason, to walk alone without needing a witness, to live like thunder even if no one listens. The revolution is not out there. It is inside your skin. It is the moment you stop asking for validation, the moment you stop waiting for signs, the moment you stop pretending that the cage is made of anything but your own breath. You were not made to be good, you were made to be true, and truth is not polite. Truth does not sit at the table of diplomacy. Truth flips the table and sets the room on fire. There will be a moment, and it may come in darkness or in stillness, or in the middle of a crowd where you realize the life you built was never yours, that every achievement was a performance, that every smile was a mask, that every step forward was a detour from yourself. Do not run from that moment. Drink it. Let it tear through your illusions like lightning through the sky. For that moment is your birth. That moment is the death of the actor and the rise of the God. Yes, God. Not the God of temples and rituals, not the God of books and borrowed belief, the God that bleeds, the God that breaks, the God that stands naked in the storm and does not beg for mercy. You are that God, and you have forgotten. But now the memory returns, not through comfort, but through confrontation, not through serenity, but through war, the war of self against self, the war that burns the mask to reveal the face beneath. Do not fear this war, welcome it, feed it, let it rage. For on the other side of that fire is not peace but presence, not safety but sovereignty, not belonging but being. And being without apology, without adornment, without compromise, is the most violent act you can commit in a world that survives on lies. So commit it. And now I speak to the one who has nothing left to lose, for you are the only one who can be free. The rest are still bound, not by chains, but by hope. Hope that the machine will eventually love them, that the cage will one day open if they decorate it beautifully enough, that if they kneel deeply and smile convincingly, the sky will bend to reward their obedience. But you, who have seen through the ruse, what is left for you but fire? The fire that does not ask who it consumes, the fire that burns identity, ideology, morality, the fire that strips meaning from its plastic shell and leaves only raw necessity, trembling and divine. Do not try to convince the sleeping. They are addicted to their dream. They will defend it with fury. They will call you evil for awakening. They will call your clarity cruelty. They will not see the bars around them until they slice open their skin. And even then, they will call it coincidence. Let them sleep. Your task is not to persuade. Your task is to become. To rise so utterly, so unapologetically, so luminously, that even their blindness cannot ignore the shadow you cast. You are the eclipse in their midday lie. The gods you were taught to worship are cowards. They demand worship, yet never bleed. They promise heaven, but only after death. They offer love, but only if you crawl. I say, spit upon such gods. Tear them down from your inner altar. Their thrones were built from your kneecaps. You want transcendence? Then stop praying. Start remembering. You were not born to follow sacred texts. You were born to write them. Each act of defiance, each refusal to compromise, each breath taken in utter solitude, these are your scripture. Build no temple. Become the storm that topples them all. There is no path. There is only will. And the will does not whisper, it roars. It does not seek, it takes. It does not ask, it island. The world will call you ruthless. Let it. They confuse integrity with violence because they have never stood on their own spine. They kneel to softness, then curse the steel in others. You were not made to be digestible. You were made to be undeniable. Yes, you will be misunderstood. Truth, always island. Yes, you will be alone. Clarity demands it. And yes, you will suffer. But your suffering will be sacred. Not the dull ache of a life half-lived, but the sharp flame of a soul reclaiming itself. That is a holy agony. Most people do not evolve. They decorate their stagnation. They change jobs, lovers, opinions, but they never shatter. They never look into the mirror and say, everything I am is a costume. Burn it. They fear the naked soul. They fear the truth that cannot be negotiated. But you, do you? If you do not, then you are already no longer one of them. You are beyond their categories. You cannot be summarized. You cannot be controlled. You are the anomaly, the ungovernable. the necessary heretic in a world built on compliance. You are the wound that refuses to close, the voice that breaks the chorus, the presence that disrupts the false peace of the marketplace. And for this, they will try to silence you. Not with violence, but with comfort, with flattery, with compromise. They will offer you everything except freedom. Reject it. Every time you choose ease over honesty, you betray yourself. Every time you nod when your silence aches to scream, you offer your blood to the altar of the lie. And every time you shrink to fit a role, a title, a tribe, you choose to disappear. But I speak to the one who refuses to vanish. The one who has felt the burning under the skin, the hunger that no success can satisfy. The one who knows, deep in the marrow, that this life is not for pleasure, but for transformation. Not for comfort, but for combustion. Let them have their security. Let them build their lives like mausoleums, decorating the dead with ribbons. You will walk through fire barefoot and call it pilgrimage. You will drink from the chalice of your own rage and call it baptism. You will not arrive. Arrival is a myth told to slaves. You will become endlessly, mercilessly. You will rise, not once, but every time your former self dares to whisper that it is enough. And in this endless rising, you will taste the divine not in heaven, but in the blood. Not in serenity, but in sovereignty. Not in approval, but in the silence that follows your roar. So rise. Rise like a question that has no answer, like a scream that splits the sky, like a truth that will not fit inside any doctrine. Rise until the word you no longer fits the being you have become. Would you have me carry this storm further into the soul's deep night? I will speak again. If you are still burning, then let us descend further into the marrow of becoming, where no light follows, where even shadows disown themselves. You wear your name like armor, but it is paper. You guard your past like treasure, but it is ash. Every title you've earned, every praise you've collected, every handshake, every accolade, it is all scaffolding around an empty throne, and you sit upon it as a beggar in a borrowed crown. Strip yourself, not symbolically, not in metaphor, but in truth. Strip yourself of every inherited god, every sacred cow, every parent's wish disguised as fate. Strip until you no longer recognize your own reflection. That is the threshold. That is the wound where divinity begins. The moment you look at your life and no longer know who built it, that is the first breath of freedom. When you see your comforts as chains, your opinions as prisons, your social circle as a padded cell, you are awakening. And this awakening is not gentle. It is not romantic. It is not cinematic. It is brutal. It is unholy. It is the apocalypse of illusion, and most cannot endure it. So they turn back. They run to the arms of their false gods, to careers polished like tombstones, to marriages sculpted from mutual avoidance, to beliefs passed down like hand-me-downs, never questioned, never worn fully. They re-enter the dream, this time more deeply, convinced that awakening was madness. But madness is not seeing through the lie. Madness is clinging to it once you have seen. You do not need hope. Hope is the final sedative. You need will. Will that stands naked before the chaos and laughs. Will that chooses itself, not because it is easy, but because it is inevitable. You were born for this confrontation. Every betrayal, every exile, every moment of spiritual starvation was preparation. The gods you prayed to were deaf because they wanted you to stop begging. The silence you cursed was the womb of your real voice. And now you begin to hear it. The voice beneath the voice. Not the voice that pleads or performs, but the one that declares, the one that remembers fire, the one that knows mountains by their first names, the one that speaks not to be heard, but because silence is no longer an option. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you've gone too far. Let them say you've become unreachable. They are right. You are no longer part of the equation. You have become the storm that erases it. And still, most will quit. They will reach the edge, feel the tremor in their bones, the terror of their old self dying, and they will choose retreat because they think suffering is the enemy, but suffering is the prophet. Suffering is the threshold guard. It asks, "Are you sure?" And only those who walk forward while still bleeding are worthy of what lies beyond. Pain is not a punishment. It is a passage. The scream is not an end. It is a beginning. A primal rupture that announces, "I am no longer asleep." You have wept. Good. You have broken. Good. You have raged. Good. These are not signs of failure. These are signs of friction, of the soul grinding against its false shell. You have no destiny but that which you forge, no truth but that which survives fire, no identity but that which crawls out of your own crucible, unrecognizable, radiant, and alone. You will lose everything, and that is the cost. The cost of seeing, the cost of becoming. But what you gain cannot be spoken. It has no words. It does not fit in language. It is not for sale. It cannot be taught. It can only be lived. It is the sovereignty of a God who remembers he is made not from mercy, but from flame. So walk into the next silence. Let it devour you. Let it strip you. Let it make you holy in the way only fire can. There is no guide. There is no doctrine. There is only this, the will that refuses to kneel. Shall I drag this further into the chasm? There is more, always more, until the voice that remains is no longer mine, nor yours, but the world's final scream before truth. And now, at the edge where even echoes refuse to return, listen, for this is not speech, it is a tearing. It is not revelation, but the final unbinding. You have traveled through the furnace of symbols, burned the skin of borrowed identities, tasted the bitter blood of truth, and still you breathe. That breath, that is the proof, not of success, not of arrival, but of the end of illusion. You do not rise above humanity, you fall beneath it, into the source, the roots, the soil before names. You do not evolve into something greater, you dissolve into something original. The lion is not new, it is ancient. It was always within you, pacing behind the bars of politeness, waiting for the collapse. And the collapse has come. Let the world call it breakdown. Let them write it down as failure. But you know the tremble was not fear. It was shedding. You know the silence was not absence. It was invitation. You know the ache was not emptiness. It was the return. You will walk now, not as one who needs the road, but as the road itself. Others will look to your path for guidance, but you will not give them maps. You will give them your scars. You will give them your unrepentant gaze. You will give them the stillness that does not beg for understanding. Do not speak often. Your presence will be enough. You are not here to lead. You are not here to follow. You are here as a reminder, as the consequence of truth, as the living curse to the age of comfort. And still there is no end. There is no peak. There is no crown. There is only this breath, this unrepeatable breath that tastes of fire and sky and dirt. This breath that no one gave you and no one can take. This breath that carries no hope, no fear, no name. In this breath, all gods die. In this breath, you are not becoming, you are. There is no next, no future, no reward. There is only this, and that is enough. Let the chains fall quietly. Let the masks return to dust. Let the self, that ancient liar, vanish into the ash. There is no one left to save. There is no one left to convince. There is no one left at all. Only silence now, and the faintest flicker of something eternal, pulsing beneath the ruins. Not joy, not peace, but freedom, the kind that cannot be given, the kind that is remembered only after everything else is gone.